We have this way that we think we should be. And, those pressures come from sometimes when we grow up, society, all different things, religion. And so we get stuck in these thought patterns and we live our life from this place of what we should do instead of really looking in and seeing what do we really want to do.
Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm McKenna Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Welcome to The Way of the Muse.
Nice to be here with you all for our second episode of the new year. And we have a great episode when it comes to thinking about kind of dreaming, planning your year, goal setting. We did one last week that touched into that kind of topic as well. And this is a little bit of a different angle, which is all of those shoulds, all the things you think you should do that you may or may not really want to do. Right, Gigi?
Yeah, we see this in our clients. And so that's why we thought of the topic, because we see it in so many different areas. And I think this goes back into, we have this way that we think we should be. And, those pressures come from sometimes when we grow up, society, all different things, religion. And so we get stuck in these thought patterns and we live our life from this place of what we should do instead of really looking in and seeing what do we really want to do. And I think most of you that are listening to this podcast probably are old enough now, right? That you really, it's time to choose what you want to do. And that's great. It's at the beginning of the year and to really change that dynamic this year.
Yeah, because how many times have you set goals or even actually accomplished things, right, that you set your mind to, and then you realize like it didn't feel the way I wanted it to feel when I accomplished it, or I set this goal and I didn't really go for it. And often that's because it was a should rather than a true desire. And that distinction is so powerful, but it's so ingrained in us to do these things that we think we should do that I don't know. I think it's just really important to step back and take the time to define the difference for you.
Yeah. So through reflection, we can start to see that if you just look at anywhere in your life right now where you're doing something because you think you should do it. I just worked with someone and this was one of her issues. She thought she couldn't go for what she wanted because she had all these other things to do. And when I said, hey, let's go to what you want to do first. And when we went to the want to, then even some of the things that she thought she should do took on a different energy and they became fun because from the context that she was coming from is first she was doing what she wanted to do.
I love that distinction that it can even just shift the way you feel about the same things and just make them more fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about some specific stories with different clients. And one of the stories we were talking about before we got on today was a client who has been working with us for several years. She's been building her business. She's had success. And she always wanted to write books. And she had this kind of story in her head that she had to grow this business to some certain size or do certain things before she would write her books. And we really helped her see, or she experimented. She's been building her business, doing different things. And then this past year, we really saw, oh my gosh, there's so much energy with writing these books. And so something you always talk about, Gigi, is to start with the end game in mind, which is kind of like when it all works out, what would you be doing? And for her, this was writing books. And so she really dove in this past few months to her writing, and it's brought up so much like creativity and inspiration for her. And she's just in such a different space. And then she can take all that energy and she's putting that into her business as well as she moves forward. but it's really like, it's just shifted her perspective, it's shifted her energy, and is a really great example of, okay, she thought it should be a certain way, that she had to follow this certain path. And now she's kind of flipped the focus and is still building her business, but doing it in a different way, if that makes sense. This is like a big focus and a big priority for her at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the lesson there is when she let go of what she thought she should do, right? That she was able to then more embrace this other thing, which was the writing the books, and able to, I think, too, let herself go and really enjoy it, to really feel like I can let myself get lost in this, where before it was something that she felt like, oh, I can't spend so much time on it or whatever, right? That's taking away from something. So I think that's a great story. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about that is in the long run, it will probably grow her business far more, right?
Absolutely.
She'll grow an audience because it's the thing that has so much energy and aliveness for her. It's going to come back around and pour into her business in unexpected ways. And that's so often the case, right? So it is kind of this thing of, like you said, what's the end game? Or when it all works out, what would you be doing? What has that energy for you? Or what do you really, really want? And starting there, it doesn't mean you're not doing your other things if you have a business or you have a job, but it is just kind of flipping the focus there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And this can be in a lot of different arenas. This can also be in your personal life. I see this so many times with new moms. They think that they should be with their kids a certain way. We talked about this on previous podcasts. And when they, again, how do they really want to raise their kids? What's the lifestyle they have? And they start to shift that, then it becomes natural and more organic instead of this trying to follow and do all the shoulds or do it the way their parents did it, to really look and see anywhere, again, in the parenting, where are they doing what they think they should do, and where are they doing what they intuitively want to do, or how they want to be creative in building their family dynamic. Not the way your sister's doing it or your friends are doing it, but really what's the way you want to do it, and stand in your power with that.
I was thinking as you were talking about, like, how would somebody identify these areas, right? And I think it's probably just to look at where in your life do you have any level of discontent, anywhere where you're like, something doesn't feel quite as good as you want it to, or you thought it would, or, you feel a little frustrated in an area, and there might be a should at work there. You might be living out, like you said, something that your parents said you should do, or you've seen your friends doing, or, you just grew up thinking that that's the way it was. And so if you kind of list those out and then you go, what's the story I'm telling myself here? What is the should? And then what do I really want? I mean, that's the simplest approach, right? And then it's having the courage to
make that change, because sometimes it deals with other people too, which is the challenging one. Because that's, think about it. It's our teachers taught us should, right? If you went to certain kinds of schools, you had should, and those things are ingrained in us, even as adults. And the more we can eliminate those, the more we do really step into who we're meant to be. Who do we want to be on this planet? How do we want to live our life? And that is, really valuable. It makes you live more authentically, have more fun, and also be able to really bring who you are and your impact into this world.
Absolutely. And that's so much when people work with us. And it's definitely the evolution I've had as well with you mentoring me, Gigi, is I call it kind of like permission to be you, permission to be your true self. Yep. And it's this evolution that has happened for me over years of more and more and more. I know what I really want. I know who I really am. And I've been able to sort of unwind some of these shoulds and some of these patterns and some of these beliefs that I have to do it a certain way, and really claim the life that I want in all different areas. And like you
Mhm.
said, this can be big things. It can also be really small things. I had a coaching call a week or two ago with one of our clients, and she was telling me how she felt so stressed about her calendar and the way she was approaching it. And she thought she needed to do it this other way. And I said, well, is the way you're doing it effective? Like, are you getting your stuff done? Are you getting results? And she was like, yeah, I'm actually really effective. And I was like, maybe you don't need to do it a different way. And she was like, oh, you're so right.
Yeah,
Right. But
yeah.
she needed somebody to sort of permission that and say, actually, if you're getting the result, you don't need to do it that way.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's too because we're learning, like even in our mastermind, the women are learning all different things. And so sometimes they take it literally and think they have to follow every single step instead of, using your creative way to take certain things that get you better results maybe, but then keep the rest. Like you said, if it's working for you, there's no reason to change it whatsoever. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really great point, because how many people listening to this have, bought a program before or
Yeah.
hired a coach or whatever it might be, and then you have all this information. I mean, we get this with social media, right? Like
Mhm.
inundated with information about all these ways you should be living your life and all the, ways you should be organizing your closet and whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we get stressed and overwhelmed thinking like we're not doing it right.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the underlying feeling a lot of the time. And what we're encouraging you to do is sort of put this filter on of like, if something is really exciting and interesting for you, or if there's an area of your life where you're not kind of getting the result you want and you want to try something else on, then great. That's a great opportunity to, use that strategy and try it on and see if it works for you, or have someone, have your coach help you with something. We always tell people we don't care if you do what we say or not, right? As long
Mhm.
as you're happy, you're getting the results you want, that's what we care about. So having this sort of filter, right, as we go through life of, wait a second, am I just shooting all over myself, as people call it? Or is this really, what I want? And maybe you want to tell the story, Gigi, of our client who realized that she was doing this around self-care. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. So, we talk about what are the things that nourish you. So I don't know how she got off on this because we really go into depth about making sure it's something that really nourishes you when we tell about self-care, finding those things that you love. But I think we were talking general self-care. And so she would always make these agreements. Yeah, I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to get a massage. And maybe because other people were saying that, I'm not sure. But she came to it just recently, right? She told you, and she was like, oh my gosh, I realized I don't really like massage.
She's like, I just want to go for walks in nature.
Yeah, walks in nature. And what was the other one she's doing? I can't remember.
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I mean, she loves
Yeah,
to read fiction books. I know that's a big one for her.
yeah,
But yeah, walks in nature. But to your point, Gigi, about like, because we do talk about the distinction of what really nourishes you versus what's,
self care. Yeah,
kind of a should or a self-care. So I think the point there, though, is that even though we make that distinction, she had to try some things on. Maybe
yeah,
she didn't know if
right.
massages nourished her. And I think that's kind of what it was about for her, is like, she thought, okay, let me try this. And she tried it for a while. And then she was like, wait a second, this is not even really unwinding me. It's not even really the thing I want to be doing.
Yeah, when she went to the walking and really I mean, before she was talking about going walking, it took her a while to get there, right? And but when she started doing it, now the other thing is now her husband's going with her. And she says it's great, like intimate time they have together. It's a great time where they get to talk about things and they're out moving. So again, when she went to what was right for her, often then what happens is people want to join you. I say you become more magnetic when you do start to live your life from that place of self-expression from who you are and choosing the things that you love to do, then you become just so much more dynamic.
Yeah, and it is a good example of, if I think back with this particular client, I remember before she would talk about going on walks, but it was always a should.
Yeah.
She was like, it was from this energy of like, I need to exercise or something, or I
Right.
need to go for these walks. And so she would do it sometimes, but not be consistent with it. I think what's changed there too is she realized, I don't know when the aha happened for her, but she realized somewhere along the line, oh, wait, I enjoy this. This is something that
Mhm.
really, like you're saying, nourishes me. And maybe the addition of her husband walking with her, I'm not sure what made the change, but now it's like she wants to do that. And so, to your point earlier in the episode of the energy around the same thing can change. Now she's being consistent with her walking because she realizes this isn't a should, it's something I really want to
Love to
do.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a powerful shift that can happen for
I
people.
think part of the changer, I mean, if I'm just guessing, but I remember when we did a session and I really encouraged her to go get a functional medicine doctor. Remember that? I think you were
Mhm.
on that session, maybe. You
I
remember?
wasn't, but I heard about it.
And so I told her, I encouraged her to go because she had some things around, wasn't feeling well, and some weight and stuff like that. And I said, I really think if you go do that, it would help you so much. And I think when she did that, and she's made such a change and lost like 20 pounds. And so it was no longer that walking was a should, that she had to do something to move and work out or something,
Mm.
Now she feels different and she's lighter. And now it's something she's doing for pleasure and fun.
Pleasure and health and to feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that. So we've talked about a few different areas that this can show up. And again, it could show up anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
it could be around your health and wellness, it could be around your self-care, around the way you're approaching your schedule, around the way
People
you're growing your business.
Mhm.
But
People you have to talk to.
tell me about that one. What do you mean?
Like should. This comes up with family members a lot of times. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I should talk to my parents. I should talk to my sister. And again, you guys see, what do you want to do there? Of course, you want to be connected, but how? So that's again, look and see what is the way that works for you. Is that taking them to lunch once a week and then you feel good? Or is that getting a Zoom call once a month? What is it where you can let go of the should? Because people feel this a lot around family.
Absolutely. So many,
Yeah.
so many shoulds that show up there. So the last piece here is around when other people are involved, right? For example, you talked about motherhood, and there's a lot of shoulds that come up for people around motherhood. So I had one, I'll use this as an example, and I don't know where this came from. I don't think it was one that I necessarily saw or heard, but it's just kind of implicit in this idea of like being a mom and doing it all, I guess, is we hired a nanny part-time. And I felt like whenever I had the nanny, helping with our daughter, that I needed to be productive during that time. So I was running around the house, doing things or working on projects or whatever that was. And kind of in this, go, go, go energy. And I never would stop and just take 30 minutes for myself, and just like take a nap if I really needed it, or, read a book or watch a show. And it still feels edgy, honestly, for me to do that. But that was one where, I did end up talking to Sonny, my husband, and being like, I feel like I really need a little downtime. And he was like, well, why aren't you doing that when the nanny's here? And I was like, that's okay. And he was like, yeah, I want you to be relaxed. I want you to feel good. Like that's part of why we hired support. And it's so funny, right? Because it's like this unconscious thing. And I was just like, oh, okay. So in that case, he was just right away on board. But even if, you have something like that and you're not sure with your partner, I guess it's just like talking it through with them and being like, hey, I'm kind of making this assumption, or I'm thinking I need to be doing this thing, but I really want to be doing this other thing. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think through conversation. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring that
And
up.
the other example you were talking about with like parents or people in your life, family members or something like that. I think you have an example there.
Yeah. I had someone that their parent, they separate during Christmas. They change each year. Sometimes they're with just their immediate family. Sometimes they're with the bigger family. And so it was a year to be just with their family, their kids and themselves. But then there was a pressure from a mother and a sister that they would come and be part of the bigger family that year. And, I said, what do you want to do? And she said, I really want to stay home with just my kids and my husband. And I said, then you just need to share that. This is our year. And so we're going to do this. Now, if you guys want to go out to lunch or something like that, we're happy to do that. And then it just handled all that pull and push and everything. Yeah. So for her to be honest about, because then she was going to go and be frustrated, and that's just not going to end up good in the long run. So
yeah, absolutely. So it's a little uncomfortable to stick to your guns, so to speak, to stick to what's right for you. But like you said, it handles so much of the back and forth and the underlying frustration and resentment that can come up in relationships when you get clear on what do I actually want in this situation, and communicate that in a loving way that has nothing to do with the other person. It's just, here's really what I want and how can we make this work?
And that's a great distinction. It's just, this is what I really want. And that's such a great way of approaching it. We get frustrated and then we don't want to say, and then we get upset, instead of just saying, hey, this is something that's important to me, or this is something that I really want. And most people, they might get upset for a minute, but most people are going to understand that. Yeah.
Especially if you share in that case, like the why, like I really feel like I need a more low key holiday, or I really feel like, this, and it has nothing to do with you. This is just something I really need. Yeah. Then again, some people will get upset still, but most people will come around and understand. So, all right, everyone, that's our episode for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you as always for hopefully subscribe if you haven't already to the podcast, and share it with someone in your life that you think would benefit from this. And we always love ratings and reviews. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.